In the morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and hue, for every heart and every hand, we've got something for you, just for you. In the morning sun where the flowers bloom, colors burst like a painter's dream come true. Roses red and violets blue, every petal whispers something new. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, in the morning welcome to the shores bloom, colors burst, every flower tells a story. Watch them grow, it's blue. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and mood he sees the trees. So every heart and every hand, we've got something for you and birds. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, every sessions to blend within your budget line. Watch them grow, from tiny seeds to trees so grand. In every shade and mood, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the shows. Design your space, where every flower tells a story. Touch, watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and mood he sees the trees. So every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the hello, where every flower tells a story. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show. Every shade, every flower tells a story. Every heart, watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and mood. Hello, hello, every heart and every hand, got something for you, just for you. Hello, hello. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and mood. For every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Indoor greens and outdoor scenes, design your space, let your garden dreams glide. Personal touch with our garden design, free sessions to blend within your budget line. Alright. From tiny seeds to trees so grand, every leaf and bird, it's all at hand. Hello, hello plant, welcome to the show, where every flower tells a story. Watch them grow. Hello, hello plant, in every shade and mood. For every heart and every hand, we've got something for you. Now everybody, let's say hello, 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 hello plant.
in the I'll run through those questions with Chris, but very important, if you could, when you ask a question, if you could just let us know roughly where you are, what state or
country
that you're in.
Yeah.
It's really helpful for Chris if he knows if you live in a cool temperate climate or a subtropical climate, because it really helps us to give you answers that are appropriate to your environment. So I think I'll have a look at the chats and see how we're going, and if I'll just refresh this. So I hope you're all having a great start to the week. All right, so Chris, I might as well just throw in a quick question. So it is, here we go. We have a lot of people come in asking questions about fruit trees, and we had a design customer yesterday who was asking about what is the difference between a dwarf fruit tree and just your regular run-of-the-mill fruit tree. So let's just say in that case we had a lady who was after a dwarf. She was after a lemon tree, and she didn't know if she should go for a dwarf lemon or a normal sized lemon. And she was saying, what's the difference?
Okay, what the difference is that they use, like, say for instance, there's three main lemons that people get. They get a Meyer lemon, a Lisbon lemon, or a Eureka lemon. And if you were to get that in a dwarf, it's grafted onto a flying dragon rootstock, and basically that's a not so vigorous rootstock, so it doesn't grow as big or as quick. And so what that does is it actually dwarfs the tree. And so, say for instance, a Meyer lemon under ideal conditions on a dwarf understock might only grow to 2 or 2.5 meters, whereas it could grow to 4 or even 5 meters on the normal. It's called a trifoliate, the normal vigorous rootstock, and the trifoliate one, the bigger one, is been developed and utilised for commercial orchards. Now. The difference is that your trifoliate is going to grow bigger and faster, and whereas your dwarf. Now I actually think dwarf, and so now these days because they're not wanting to send people up ladders as much, or have to stretch as far to do their picking. So with the dwarf ones, they're tending. They don't grow so big, and I think that they put more effort into fruiting and less effort into growing. So the fruit production can be quite high on a small tree, and right at the moment we've got the nurseries full of dwarf fruit trees, and all the dwarfs they're the same trees you'd normally get. Like we've got all your popular peaches and apricots and like moorparks and travats and your popular cherries like Stellas and Lapins, and they've just been grafted onto an understock where they're not going to grow as quickly or as big, and so they're going to finish off as a much smaller tree and be easier to trim and keep in check. And with this, people having smaller gardens these days than what they used to, there's a big, and also most of your dwarfs would be quite happy to spend their whole life in a big pot. So that's one of the great things with a dwarf, is they're happy in a small pot.
And a subsequent question that that the lady had to the question around dwarf or not dwarf, she had concerns that if she went with a dwarf, that the fruit would be small, and so that's not the case, is it?
No, it's like if you say you get like a Satsuma plum, the plums are going to be just as big and just as delicious as if you bought a big one, but the tree is just going to be more compact. It's not going to grow as big or as fast. And then a plum tree really can grow big. Like I think we had blood plums beside our house when I was a kid, and I reckon they were 5 or 6 meters tall. So whereas your dwarf plum's probably going to be about 3 meters tall. And even if you have to prune it, you won't have to prune it as much as a dwarf. You won't have to prune a dwarf as much as you would a big one.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Well, I hope that's been really helpful for everyone that's listening, because it's certainly a common misconception that dwarf trees produce
dwarf fruit.
Yeah, toy-sized fruits.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. Now, I've got a question from Elisha. What is the best way to layer plants for a good-looking garden?
To layer.
Layer. And I think this is a design-based question.
Oh, layer.
Yeah,
right.
so, yes, I know. You and I, as horticulturists, we think layer and we think about vegetative propagation.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think we're talking about from a design perspective, how is the best way to put together plants in your garden to make it look full and luscious?
Okay. I think when I'm doing layering, I'm always looking for contrast. Now you can contrast greens, like for instance, say for instance if you did a sweet viburnum hedge. Now a sweet viburnum hedge will make a nice tall hedge, sort of in the 1.8 to 3 metre sort of bracket. They're really good for that, and they've got a great big leaf. Now, if you then wanted to if you want to drop down and have some lower bushes in front of that, you wouldn't go for you'd go for something with a completely different leaf, and you might go for something like an orange jessamine because it's glossy, it's dark green, and it's fine and it's dense, and so you'd have this taller layer of kind of coarser foliage, and then you have a lower layer of finer, denser, glossy dark green. And I did a garden design yesterday, and I layered I did orange jessamine at the back, and orange jessamine is really good at 1 to 1.2 metres. And then for the row in the front, I used Gardenia florida, and so that's using greens and getting contrast with greens. The other way you can go is you can do colours, and for instance, you can do something like Plum Gorgeous. You can do a Laura Petalum, which is a nice dark purple all year round, and then you can contrast that with something like a kaleidoscope a gold leaf abelia in front. So you've got purple and gold, and then in the front you could do something like a silver bush or a snow in summer or a lamb's ear and put some silver, and there's nothing like silver, gold and purple together. So either in the I'll either contrast the green. So the sort of thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't say put a Japanese box in front of an orange jessamine, because they're both glossy leaves and they're both fine. So the lack of contrast there. So I'd be looking for a different, like the gardenia with its larger dark green glossy leaves, and the orange jessamine with its finer denser foliage are a really lovely contrast. So or I go with colours. I go purple, yellow, silver. So go for colours or go for, but main thing is to go for contrast and not have things blending into each other too much.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so over on TikTok we've got Sidama, who says, my lemon tree is still in pots. Do I have to put it in the ground, and is that important?
Yes and no. A lemon tree will do much better in the ground than what it will in a pot. But a lot of people are in a situation where maybe they're renting and they've got a lemon tree and they're going to take it with them when they move, or they live in an apartment. They maybe just got a big concrete balcony or something like that. And so if you're in that sort of situation and you have to grow your lemon tree in a tub, grow it in a nice big tub. They love plenty of osmocote. They like some nice rich compost, plenty of osmocote. So nice rich conditions, good soil, and plenty of moisture. Like a half wine barrel is a really good size pot for growing a lemon tree on a permanent basis. So nice big pot, you can keep a lemon and do really well with it forever. And we're just talking about dwarf fruit trees, and possibly, if I was going to go long term in a big tub, I'd possibly look at a dwarf lemon. But then what you'll find, if you're planting in the garden, dig a nice big hole, mix in some good soil, mix in some compost, mix in a bit of osmocote, make really good conditions, lovely leaves, don't have any grass or weeds around the base. And a lemon tree loves being in the ground and will always do better in the ground than what it'll do in the pot. Fantastic.
All right, let me just have a look and see if we've got some more questions.
Who's it from?
Who's it?
Oh, that.
I don't know. I didn't see
Sajana
that appear. Okay. All right. Right. We don't have questions in the chat at the minute, but we've got some questions that people have been asking us on our socials over time. So I'm going to go to some of those. All right, so how do I keep my garden looking neat and tidy without spending too much time maintaining it?
Okay.
Yeah.
The trick is, what are the main things that stop you? Weeds are probably the main thing that stop your garden from looking tidy. Now the thing with weeds is almost religiously, don't let them seed. And a nurseryman told me that how he keeps his nursery clean is he speed weeds. Now I thought that was a fabulous idea, and what he does is that he doesn't go like there'll be little tiny weeds in your garden that are hard to get your fingers on, you know, like little tiny ones like that. And what he does is he goes for the bigger weeds that are about to seed, and he goes through and he pulls them all out before they seed. So as they get up in size and before they sexually mature, maybe when they sees a flower on them or something like that, he gets them out. So if your first rule would be don't let the weeds seed. You can spray them, you can hoe them, you can pull them, but don't let them seed. My favourite thing for cleaning up around the garden is a hoe, and sometimes, you know, sometimes I talk about the value of a hoe, you know, like, and I'm sitting there and I've got a young couple there and I'm showing them how to do that, do a garden design, showing that, and I say, look, what you need is a hoe, and the young guy looks at me like this, but what I mean is one of those, and what is they're not familiar with, there's different sorts of hoes. There's the, and the one I'm talking about is the one that you use for chopping weeds with. But anyway, so, and hoes are fantastic. On a gravel path, you can chip out the weeds real easy. And the trick with weeds is to hoe them regularly and don't let them get too big, because when they get big, they can get quite hard to chop off. But so if you go through and hoeing regularly and knocking out the weeds when they're small becomes really quite effortless. And I don't even clean the weeds up. I just let them lay on the ground and shrivel up and they become compost. They actually feed the other plants. So hoeing is really, really good. But so first rule, don't let the weed seed, and then the other thing is a little bit of trimming here and there, and the other thing would be sort of a bit of a patch up. Like, I reckon that the lawn is much more important than what most people reckon. And now, what goes wrong with most lawns is most people cut them too short. They think, gee, I don't want to mow this for another 6 weeks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mow it flat to the ground. What they do is they bruise it, they damage it, they make holes in it. Weeds grow in the holes and they wreck their lawn. So, and when my lawn gets a bit tired, I actually lift my mower up and cut it high for a couple of weeks. And you should be prepared to mow your lawn fairly often. I mean, it's not that hard to mow the lawn, and mow it fairly often, and don't go cutting it too short. And then if you've got holes, just sprinkle a bit of fresh potting mix on there, or a bit of fresh soil, and chuck a bit of lawn seed on it. Keep it moist, and you can fill in those holes in no time. And you know, don't be afraid to oversow it. And also, if it's a bit tight, you know, put a bit of fertilizer on it and cut it nice, cut it high for a few weeks, and it seems to get rid of a lot of the weeds and really beef it up. So getting the lawn right, and then a little bit of pruning, and then the other thing is I call it de-horroring. And what happens is that you've had the place for 5 or 6 years, and you don't really see it anymore. So what you do is you pretend you're somebody else, and you stand out there in front and you look at it and you say, well, look, what's the ugliest thing here? Oh, gee, that bush there looks terrible, shocking, you know? And if it's got no redeeming, and so what happens is that my mum, great gardener, and her thing, she was always chopping something out. And what it is that she'd have some new plant in mind, and there'd be some plant that she bought and maybe didn't work out quite right, ended up a bit ugly and twisted and terrible, and out she goes. So I think you've really got to be prepared to be a little bit ruthless. Look, the thing is that you can plant plants, you can look after them, you water them, fertilise them, they can grow. There's plants these days relative to wages are very, very cheap. I think that you should be a little bit ferocious, and what I do is if I look at something and I think, what does that do that's good? If you're having trouble think of something that's good, and then you're looking at it, it's a bit ugly or a bit terrible, a bit twisted, then I chop it out, get rid of it, replace it, because plants are cheap, and it's much better to have healthy, nice plants that are really good.
Yep. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Chris. All right, now we, as I've mentioned earlier, and we have had a lot of new people pour into the live stream on all of the platforms. So just a reminder, if you've got a question for us and you're asking for a recommendation of a plant, just remember to let us know whereabouts. Roughly, we don't need to know your street, but just let us know sort of, what town or city that you're in, so that we can help to tailor the answers to meet your climatic conditions. Now we have got over on TikTok, Nicole has asked a question. I don't know where Nicole is, so what I decided I'll do with Nicole's question is we'll answer it in terms of southern states of Australia, what you would recommend.
Yep.
Then in the more sort of, let's just say, north of Sydney.
Yep.
And then because we have a lot of people that are tuning in from quite arid areas, because Australia is mostly arid, we'll have a think about if you're in Deniliquin or somewhere like that where it's hot and dry and hostile environment at times, what the recommendation would be for that kind of environment as well. So the question is, evergreen tree recommendations for a front yard that gives privacy and receives afternoon sun.
Right. Okay. Let's imagine we're in Victoria somewhere, and it would be hard to beat a nice evergreen magnolia like an Exmouth, and that has big white fragrant flowers for 5 months of the year, lovely dark green foliage, sort of good size. So it'll give you some privacy, it'll give you a bit of shade. I think that would be great. And with those, they're pretty tough, and they'll take severe frost. So they take the worst frost you could possibly find in Victoria, your evergreen magnolia, Exmouth. Your Exmouth is one of the less common magnolias, but it's a really great magnolia. And that would do really, really well until well north of Sydney.
Yeah, right.
And then going well north of Sydney, I'm thinking that and going out west a bit and taking a fair bit of frost and right up into your subtropical regions. I'm thinking of your water gum luscious.
Beautiful.
Water gum luscious, fabulous plant. It's an Australian native, but it's kind of a sexier. It's a sexier version of the normal water gum. It's got a beautiful green, and if you looked at one from a distance, and somebody told you it was an evergreen magnolia, you'd believe them.
Right.
Like so it looks like just like an evergreen magnolia, big, but doesn't have those magnolia flowers, and it does well all through Victoria. But it would, as you go up north, it would be, as you push further up to probably as far as Rockhampton, you'd find that your luscious would be fabulous, and it really is luscious, and it's very fast and growing and very beautiful.
All right.
And no real vices.
So.
So say we're out in
Deniliquin or Burke or somewhere like that.
Getting tough. What about that acacia we were looking at the other day?
Oh, yes. Now, the name of that acacia fails me at the minute. Oh, gosh. It's an absolute doozy.
Yeah.
The City of Melbourne have planted them along Arden Street.
And I've seen them in Shepparton.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was a cracker that you saw. So a really good street tree, evergreen, and it is tough as tough can be.
If you had plenty of space, it's hard to beat a peppercorn tree. I reckon they're gorgeous.
Oh yes, of course.
So if you're out in Dubbo or Broken Hill or somewhere like that, and you've got a bit of space, you don't want to have a little tiny yard. It's hard to beat a peppercorn.
Peppercorn.
Yeah, and I was amazed. Peppercorns, if you're out the back of Bendigo and places like that, where they've done the gold mining, and it's all sort of roughed up. The land's a bit roughed up and not really original anymore. There's peppercorns everywhere. Well, I was sort of out from Mexico City one time, sort of out in the back blocks of Mexico City, and there was peppercorns everywhere, and it just reminded me of Bendigo, and it was sort of in semi-desert. There was cactuses and those. They're great in that semi-arid situation, and great evergreen in that semi-arid situation.
All right, beautiful. Now, Nicole's come back to us. She's thrown us a curveball, which I love. So, Macedon Ranges. Now, there's a particular type of climate.
Yeah, right. So
Macedon Ranges,
your Xmas magnolia is going to lap up the frost and the cold up there. Great in the summer, really nice and hardy. Take the sort of hot wind. It's hot and dry up there in the summer, and cold and frosty in the winter. And I'll stick with my Xmas magnolia.
Fantastic, I love that. Excellent. All right. Now, Phil Smith has joined us on Instagram, and Phil's got a great question, and it's something that we talk about in our garden designs quite a bit. Gypsum on clay. How can I know if I should use it or not use it?
Right. Okay. So gypsum on clay. So basically, you're better at this than me.
All right. So a lot of people are generally aware that gypsum can act as what they call a clay breaker. It has a chemical. It causes a chemical reaction in the soil that makes the clay particles relax. And so the bond between the particles is less strong, and so it opens up the soil a little bit. So a lot of people think it's the magic bullet. Gypsum is the magic bullet to making their soil loose and friable.
Yep.
In reality, gypsum only actually works on a particular type of soil. Now, either you have if you're living on clay. No, I should say, gypsum only works effectively on a particular type of clay soil. So if you are on a clay soil, either you're on a reactive clay soil or a non-reactive clay soil. Now, if you're on a non-reactive clay soil, gypsum will not work for you. It won't do what it says on the box. So the best way to test to see if you've got a reactive clay or a non-reactive clay is to dig a hole, for a little bit of education for everyone, the depth of a spade in horticultural terms is referred to as a spit.
Right.
So that's from the top of the spade to the bottom of the spade. And so if you go down 1 to 2 spits deep, maybe it's 1 or 1.5 spits deep, then you grab a nice clod of clay from the bottom of that that hole. So that's your native soil. Okay, so we're not messing around with the topsoil or anything that's been introduced. We're looking at the subsurface stuff. And if you get that clod of clay and you stick it in a jar, a Vegemite jar of distilled water, or bottled water, distilled water, something that's natural and has a neutral pH. If you very gently place that clod of clay inside the Vegemite jar that's got the water in it already, and you very gently take your fingers away and you leave that Vegemite jar on the bench for half an hour or an hour, and you come back, and if it's looking a bit milky, if the water's started to get a little bit milky murky, then that's an indication that the clay is reactive.
Right.
Okay? But if you come back and it hasn't changed at all, then you're going to need to go away and come back in 24 hours time. And if in 24 hours time you might see a little bit of activity there, it's got a little bit murky, milky looking around that clod of clay, then that is telling you it's reactive, but it's not as reactive as some soils.
Yeah.
So the gypsum will be effective, but it'll be less effective than on some other soils.
Now, one of the problems I've had lots of people tell me that gypsum didn't work.
Yeah.
And what it is that there's some companies, one of the big hardwares, in fact, around the place, they sell a very fine white powder they call gypsum. Mm-hmm. And I don't believe it is. I think it's some sort of chemical waste from CSR that they're selling. No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
At any rate, because when you buy real gypsum, and if I wanted to buy some real gypsum, I'd probably go to E.E. Muir and Sons. That'd be a great place to buy gypsum.
That's E.E.
Muir and Sons. Now they're a great place to buy your fertilisers.
Yeah,
now, and I haven't got shares in them or anything like that. It's where I shop myself. Yeah. At any rate, so they sell big bags of it, and it's nothing like the stuff that they sell in their big hardware stores. like yellow beach sand. You kind of feel like when you buy that white powder, you think it must be gypsum, but when you buy the yellow stuff, it looks like they're selling you beach sand. And that yellow beach sand, and then to make a difference, you need to cultivate it into the ground, and you need to use 3 kilos per square metre. So I've had people, they've gone and bought 2 kilos of that white powder at one of the hardware stores, and they sprinkle it over the front yard, and because their front yard wasn't transformed into fabulous soil, they say it doesn't work.
Or they didn't dig it in at all.
Or they didn't dig it in, they sprinkle this white powder over the top. So basically, it has to be dug in, and you actually have to buy, and there is packages and things that people selling stuff that isn't even gypsum. People are selling stuff that's not even gypsum, and real gypsum's like yellow beach sand. And that, then you use that 3 kilos per square metre. So if you've got an 80 square metre front garden that you're fixing up, that'd be 240 kilos you need. But when you buy real stuff in big bags, it's not that expensive, and so it's affordable to put it on. So you've got to use the right gypsum, and you've got to use the right amount, and you've got to cultivate it in. And then while you're cultivating it in, if you mix in some compost or some potting mix or some nice stuff with some nice particles, that can really help at the same time. So I think that using gypsum, you've got to use the right one, you've got to use the right amount, and then mix it up with some other stuff as well.
Yeah. Now, really important. So we live out here in the volcanic plains of Melbourne, and if I was to use gypsum, and I think for everybody in my area who has heard that it's good to use gypsum as a quote unquote clay breaker, they're wasting their money, absolutely wasting their money.
So
yeah,
how would you combat your clay?
So I've spent years improving my soil, and it's cheaper than a gym membership. What you need is a spade, a really good spade, and and maybe even a fork. I've got a broad fork, so I've invested in a broad fork. I've got a good garden, and so it's become quite handy for me over the years. And I use it in my veggie patch, on a seasonal basis. And basically, I chuck the broad fork in. It's a big, heavy fork, and I've got to stand on top of it and pull it backwards. But it's what it does is it cracks the soil open, and it lets air get in. And it's breaking the clay apart each time, and then I will mix into that maybe some coarse sand, or I might mix into that lots of organic matter, so lots and lots of compost, or in our situation where we're doing garden design stuff and people are going away and building new gardens, we often use potting mix. Why? Because potting mix is made up of 70% well composted material. So mixing in potting mix, mixing in compost, mixing in some river sand, all great ways, and then digging it over, turning it over, and smashing it up. And you can make. And it's a funny thing. One day I had a lady complain that she'd bought some plants from me and they'd all died, and I went out there and she had horrific clay. At any rate. And everything was dead, and it had wet feet, and it had all been planted wrong and everything like that. And I thought, wow, I wonder how anyone grows a garden around here. Then I looked around, and over the road was the most beautiful garden, absolutely fabulous, full of roses and cottage plants and vegetables, and it was like a little Garden of Eden. And it was only like 25 metres from the garden that I was in, where it was a total disaster. Anyway, I walked over the road, and there was an old chap digging in the garden. And it was digging over his soil, and basically I talked to him, and basically he did exactly what you said. He was an old Italian, and he used to dig and turn his soil, mix in compost, have a compost heap, mix stuff into it, and and clay. A lot of people think that they need to dig up their clay and take it to the tip. Clay's actually got more good in it than most other soils. It's the best. It is honestly the best starting point for a garden, in my opinion, because there's more minerals in clay than in any other type of soil.
And all you have to do is break it up and make the nutrients and the good stuff in that clay, and it holds water too. So basically, you've got to make it accessible. And what was interesting was that the dichotomy between this completely devastated garden, which had been where no soil improvement occurred, and they just put plants in it, and this chap who'd improved his soil. the garden, they were just like from different universes. They're incredibly different, and it really struck home to me how important it was to prepare the soil and make the soil good.
So now Rebecca's on TikTok and has said, I wish I knew this as I put so much gypsum on my new build land and I'm still struggling. So she will do the test.
Yeah, so do the test, and whether you're using gypsum or not, breaking it up, sand, compost, potting mix, digging over, breaking it up is also the answer.
And Chris, I might also add, and this is a very English thing to do, but you know, when I lived in England, I picked up this tip. In many parts of the world, they use what they refer to as horticultural grit. Now, horticultural grit is effectively just finely, I say well ground, stony material.
Yeah.
And it could be like a granite base, or it could be a basalt base. It's not ground as finely as powder, but it's sort of like, I would say, less than 5 millimeters.
Right. And that powdery stuff that comes with that is really got good minerals and stuff.
Good minerals.
Yeah.
So that's not bad to put on your garden either. And they do, you know, commercially people sell that, which is excellent. But horticultural grit is really important because if you can turn some of that, let's just say you've got a very heavy clay area and you've got very poor drainage. If you want to improve the drainage, mixing horticultural grit into the bottom of the hole where you're putting your plants, that's going to help with the drainage. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I know Monty Don, he talks about that all the time. Horticultural grit, he's always talking about horticultural grit. So that's a good one. So yeah, really, really happy that that's been helpful for Rebecca. I hope that's been helpful for everyone else. Now, we've also got a question in here from, and thank you to Phil for asking that question because it's a really important one. All right, I am Smiley Kylie on Instagram. Snails in the veggie patch. How do I stop them? And Kylie's in Melbourne.
Look, what you've got to do is ration your husband's beer. And what you do is you get a bread and butter plate, just as shallow, not too deep, so this one that's shallowly dished out, and you bury it down to the point where it's flat with the garden on the edges, and you take some of your husband's beer and you tip it in there and you fill it up, and what happens is snails wander over and they have a little sip of that beer and they become slightly inebriated and they think this beer is pretty good, and what it is, snails can't stop at one. And they drink a bit more and they go in a bit more and a bit more and a bit more, and before you know it, they're drowning in the beer. And at my mum's horticulture society, that's how they knock off the snails, is with beer.
Do you know how I do it?
How?
All right. If it's a nice warm night, sometimes I do this in the winter. Sometimes I do it on a balmy summer's night. When the temper, you know, when the dew, you sort of start to get to your dew point, and the temperature's dropped in the evening, I put my headlamp on and I go outside with an old pot that I've had laying around. I put I've got some old mulch material. I moisten it up so it's a nice environment for snails. I put that in the pot, and then I walk around and I collect, because that's when the snails come out.
Right.
They come out from their hiding spots at night time, and I walk around with my headlamp and I pick each one that I could see up and I put them into that pot, and I put a tile on top of that pot, and the next day I go down to my local park where there's a lake and I just tip them out for the ducks.
Right, on the edge of the lake?
On the edge of the lake where the ducks are. And
That's
the ducks
a great
come
idea.
running for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
It's great because
I'm sure the snails don't enjoy it much, but it's good for everyone else.
I'm sure they don't realise what's going on.
Yeah.
But I look after them because I keep them in a lovely, nice, moist environment that they like. But and I don't keep them very long, and I keep them a few hours. But I tell you what, I've absolutely decimated the population of snails in my garden by doing that.
Right.
Yeah, because if they're not there, they can't reproduce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great idea. Good duck food.
Oh, excellent duck food. And also, it's really good because a lot of people go down to feed the ducks with the kids and they take bread, and it's the worst thing you could possibly give ducks. So give them snails instead. They absolutely love it. When they smoosh up the snails in their beaks, they break up the shells, and the shells are really good shell grip for the birds. It's really good for their egg production and for their feathers as well. So now we've got a question on TikTok from Alicia. Do you still have free cherry tomatoes? I'm planning to go down to your nursery this weekend.
Ooh, no. I'd say the cherry tomato is over by tomorrow night.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm looking at the last trolley with cherry tomatoes on there, but for the next 24 hours or however long they last.
That's it.
Yeah. They'll disappear quite quickly.
How about we pick out a really nice one, put a name on it, put it in a pickup yard, and she can come in and say, look, I've got a free pickup.
Oh, let's do that.
Let's do that. So that'll be the last cherry tomato for this season.
But there is still a trolley. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 tiers on it.
Yeah, put her name on one and we'll put it in the pickup yard. So come in and say, I've got a pickup for a free cherry tomato, and come in and pick it up, okay? And that'll be the last cherry tomato.
All right, now let's have another look. So I'm Smiley Kylie has got another question. Also, now remembering she's in Melbourne, any low maintenance hedges she'd like advice on. She's living in a rental and the landlord has given permission to pull out the current hedges that require trimming every week, it seems. So any suggestion for alternative hedges that don't require as much maintenance?
That's trimming every week. I wonder where you are.
In Melbourne.
I'm in Melbourne. Wow. So the problem with ones, because you're renting, you need a bit of action, you know, like, but you want one that you don't have to trim all the time.
So I guess the way I would rephrase this question, if we've got a rental property, all right, maybe you're the landlord.
Yep.
And you're wanting to put in a hedge that just doesn't require as much maintenance as higher maintenance hedges.
I'm thinking green screen. The green screen lily pilly.
Yeah.
Very few bugs and problems. Doesn't need, like, it loves a bit of water. It'll grow quite quickly if you give it water. If you don't give it water, it'll be quite tough.
Yeah.
And it has lovely fine foliage, and it'll make a good hedge at a reasonable speed. Not super fast. Like your super fast hedges tend to be high maintenance hedges. So I think your lily pilly green screen, and they're actually, if your landlord likes a bargain, we've got them about 3 foot tall for $24.99 at the moment. Normally they're $39.99, but they're probably the best value lily pilly around in Melbourne at the moment. So green screen.
Green screen.
Yeah.
Now.
And you'd put those in on a 90 centimetre to 1 metre spacing.
Ah, you read my mind.
Yeah.
All right, lovely. Okay, so Sarah Congay says hi from Florida.
Hi.
Welcome. All right, we're getting close to the end of our time, so we'll just have a few more questions. Rebecca's asked, what about crushed eggshells for snails? So in deterring them.
I think I've heard that. I've heard that you could put that they don't like crawling over them.
Yeah, it's a bit sharp.
Yeah, a bit sharp. So you could put that if you've got an area that they're frequenting that you don't want to have them there. That crushed eggshell could be a great idea.
And what makes the eggshells more sharp and less desirable for them is when you actually bake the eggshells in the oven.
Oh, right.
Yeah, oh. They become quite brittle there.
Yeah, that's a good hint.
Yeah. So now we've got a question from Cletus, looking for a low maintenance native, if possible, hedge, 4 metres plus for southern New South Wales.
Southern New South Wales. Okay, 4 metres plus. I'm thinking Callistemon Slim. Callistemon Slim, it's a beautiful thing. It's a callistemon that grows slim, like I say, it grows sort of tall and narrow. It'll do sort of 4 to 5.5 metres, and it's a kind of a compacted callistemon, so it's all very tightly branched and tightly foliaged, And when it flowers so, it's bright red flowers, and it flowers so well that you can hardly see the leaves.
Fantastic. All right.
So just brilliant red, and you'd plant them about 1.2 metres apart, and you'll end up with a lovely, almost a natural hedge that you barely have to trim. A natural biggish hedge that you barely have to trim.
Fantastic. All right, well listen, we've come to the end of our time for today, but I've been absolutely loving the questions that are coming in. So we do this Q&A session every Monday at 12 o'clock Australian Eastern Standard Time, Daylight Savings Time.
Yep.
And we're always happy to take questions for anywhere in the world. Where we like the challenge of being able to, have a think about it and test our brains. So if you want to join us again next Monday, 12 o'clock, we'll be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and we really value your you showing up. And Cletus is saying thank you very much. Really appreciate your Q&A streams. Such great information.
Thank you. Let's do one more question.
One more question. Okay, all right. Let me have a look. All right, here's a really tricky question for you. How do I know if I'm overwatering or underwatering?
That is a very, very tough question. If it's in a pot,
Yep.
well, okay, you've really got to know a bit about that plant. Like, for instance, mother-in-law's tongue, so easy to overwater. And what happens is they just rot and fall apart. Now, it's funny, mother-in-law's tongue up in Queensland's a weed, and they people would have trouble. They're those sansevierias, those tall, skinny things, and you get them like either sort of grey-green or kind of golden green. At any rate, they're very popular in Victoria, and if you put them outside and with our very wet winters, they just rot and fall apart. Wet, cold winters, they rot and fall apart. And we've got one as an indoor plant in our house, and I reckon it's lucky to get watered every 2 or 3 weeks. But you give it a good soak when you do it. So you have to know a bit about the plant. Your lavenders, say you got lavenders in pots or in the garden, they come from like semi-desert areas in sort of France and Italy and places like that. And they really don't need too much water. So you've kind of got to know. And if you got them in a pot and you water them every day, they're gonna rot. They're gonna do terrible. So you really have to know a little bit about how and when to water. And with pots, what I do in the nursery, I've got probably 100,000 pots here in the nursery, and what I do is when I'm wondering what's going on, I pick them up and I feel the weight of the pot relative to the size. And a heavy pot is a nice wet pot, and a light pot is a dry pot. And and when plants are in the garden, there's nothing wrong with digging a hole. I remember one time, this chap was actually a weatherman on TV, and he rang me up and said, "Chris," he said, "you've sold me all these mob tops and there's a disease in them, they're dying." And at any rate, I said, "Oh, really?" And I'd never seen a disease in mob tops. So I said, "Look, I'll come and take a look for you." Anyway, I went down there and I had a look, and sure enough, there was one here and one there dying. And at any rate, and he had the most beautiful lawn, fabulous, beautiful fine turf, beautifully cut. And at any rate, so I did what I always do, I dug a hole. And there's nothing like digging a hole when you're growing in the ground and looking at what's, and what happens, I went down about an inch in the ground and it was dust. I said, "Do you water this?" He said, "Oh yes, I water them every day." I said, "How long do you water them for?" He said, "Oh, about 30 seconds. And anyway, so 30 seconds was enough to make his lawn green, but these plants had deep roots, and down deep he just had dust.
Yeah.
And so I said, "Look, what I want you to do is I want you to water for 20 minutes once a week." And the disease stopped, they stopped dying,
Yep.
and they started growing.
Yep.
Because what it was, 20 minutes was going to get the water down where the roots are. And the only way I was really able to work out what was going wrong was to go there and dig a hole.
Yeah.
And so often I and over, say you're digging a hole, like I had a situation the other day, I had a chap, he bought a maple from me, and it had a bit of leaf burn and stuff on it, and he thought he might have been overwatering or underwatering, didn't know, so I said, "Look, I'll pop by and have a look." So I went out there and I dug a hole, and I dug down a full spade, which you said was a spit, a full spade deep, and I grabbed a bit of soil down a full spade deep, and I pulled it up and I sniffed it, and it smelled sweet. Now what that meant was that when you overwater, it smells like sewage. And so because I got a lovely sweet smell down a spade deep, I said to him, the watering's fine. And that was funny. He said, do you think it could have been from windburn when I drove it home? Because he'd only had it for a couple of weeks. And I said, yeah, because I said, look at all the new growth is beautiful on it. It's got lovely new growth. All the middle of it was all burnt and the top new growth was fine. I'd had it for 2 or 3 weeks. So I said, all the new leaves are fine. I said, this soil smells sweet and it's moist. I said, so you're watering it just right. And so by digging down beside it, I was able to work out that he wasn't overwatering. But very often when I go, I try and, the problem is that when you're in the garden, overwatering and underwatering look the same. You get leaves drying up and the plant dying back or branch dying or something like that. And the only way you can really work out is digging down. And dig down, you get the terrible smell. They're overwatering. You dig down and it smells sweet. It's fine. And if it's drying up, it means they're underwatering. So they're underwatering if it smells sweet but it's dry. And so basically, if it smells sweet and the plant's a bit dry, increase the water. If it's all stinky and terrible, often if it's freshly planted, I get them to dig up, put it back in the pot, or dig it up and plant it up higher so it's not down deep. And the main time when I see overwatering is when people landscape a whole new front garden, and what they do is they'll lay new turf, and the turf company says, look, what you got to do is water it 10 times a day. So what they do is they water it 10 times a day for 15 minutes, and they create a flood, and then the weeping cherry or weeping birch or whatever it is that's in the middle of the front lawn gets root rot and starts dying off. And that's to do with overwatering. And when you often planting new turf will cause overwatering, but what people don't realise is once you've got the ground underneath your turf wet, you only have to water it for about 30 seconds and wet the leaves when you're establishing new turf. And so that's the most common cause of wet feet that I see in Melbourne, is where people are doing new turf, watering it like crazy and drowning their other plants.
Yeah. All right. Now, I know we really appreciate having people asking questions, so would you be happy to take another 1 or 2 questions?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Okay, so Larissa's Garden on Instagram. Hi guys, I need help with maple and lily pilly. They're losing leaves, no insects were spotted, no leaves on the ground. What should I do? Thank you.
I wonder where you live.
Be interesting to know.
I had a situation years ago, and it was out near Craigieburn, and what it was that it was right. There's a college there now, but at the time there was the house where they shot Mad Max.
Yes, another one. Yes.
Okay, so I supplied a very large order of plants to go all around that, and if you go to the house now in the college, it's got all beautiful garden around it. Well, I supplied all those plants, and what happened was that my brother took on the job, and he was going out there once or twice a week and looking after establishing those trees. It was a very big order back in those days. At any rate, what happened was that summer came, and when the wind blew, the leaves used to fall off the trees. And he was watering them, and he rang me, and he was nearly around the bend because he'd done everything he could to solve the problem. And at any rate, I hired a chap who's an agronomist who worked on the relationships between nutrients and soil problems and things like that, and livestock, and sort of had a kind of integrated problem solving thing. Anyway, he went out there and he discovered that basically the soil and water up there had salt in it.
Right.
A high content of salt. And at any rate, as he explained to me, it was very, very interesting. He said he said the salt at the level you've got there doesn't really hurt the plants. But he said what it does do, the salt eats all the copper.
Yeah.
And he said now copper is essential for plants to be able to bring water up through them to sort of for their capillary action to work. They have to have copper. So he said when you have a lack of copper, your plants will wilt, and on a hot windy day the leaves will drop off. And there were locals saying at the time that you should never have planted those trees out there because no trees have ever really no exotic trees have ever survived up there. But nobody knew why the leaves were falling off in that. And anyway, so what he told me, he said, look, he said, if you put copper, he said, so you've got a copper deficiency. He said, it's not really a salt problem, it's really a copper deficiency caused by salt. And he said, now you can go up there and you can throw copper on the ground, but he said the salt will eat it. And he said, you can't get it to the tree. He said, the only way you're going to do it, he said, if you spray, and he made me a special formula of foliar nutrient, you spray a high copper content foliar nutrient on them once a week.
Right.
And so my brother used to go out there spraying with that, and from that we had no more leaf fall.
Right, that's interesting.
And so basically, and then I had another paddock once that had a salt problem, and I had another at a nursery in Geelong at one stage, and we had a salt problem. The salt was coming through the town water, and we had wilting and leaf drop and things like that. And each time I've used, when I've had mystery leaf drop, I've often found that it relates to a small amount of salt, copper missing, plants wilting or leaf dropping.
Okay. All right. So Larissa is in Bundoora. So, I think geographically speaking, quite low, quite near to the area that you were talking about.
Yeah,
quite
that's
similar.
right.
Similar
Yeah,
type soil.
so a mysterious leaf drop can be controlled with a really good quality, and then you'd go to somebody like EMU, a really good quality foliar nutrient. As long as what I do is I dig a hole, make sure they're not dry.
Yep.
Dry down deep. So make sure it's not dryness, and if it's not dryness, I'd go for a good foliar nutrient. And somebody like, if you went in and spoke to EMU and Sons, and told them what your problem was, they could probably put you onto a good liquid fertiliser that's going to work for you.
Wonderful.
And liquid fertiliser is amazing stuff. I've used it a lot, because what it is that liquid fertiliser, if you go out, like this morning was a beautiful cool grey morning, there would have been a great morning for putting out liquid fertiliser. And what happens is that you spray it on, and while the droplets are on the leaves suck it up, and the nutrient goes straight into the plant. Now what's interesting, if you throw fertiliser on the ground, it can take 6 weeks for it to get into the ground, up the tree to the tip. Yep. Whereas it can take seconds to get it in with a foliar nutrient. And so where a plant's in trouble, that's why foliar nutrient, where a plant's not in trouble or it's not performing well, foliar nutrients leave your solid nutrients for dead.
Yeah.
And I would tend to like to use both.
All right. Final question, because Hazza has joined us on TikTok, and I do apologise to those on TikTok. Our feed has been a little bit jumpy today. Hazza has asked, I have 2 large ironbark trees next to a driveway. It's causing damage. Can we save them or remove them?
It's hard once they've started to. Basically, it's their roots that are damaging the concrete in the driveway.
Not enough space for both.
Yeah, and so the problem is that as they grow, and it's hard to stop them from growing, other than killing them. As they grow, the roots will grow, and the damage will get worse. So you've kind of, if you really love the trees, the only way you could do it is rip up the driveway and replace it with a gravel driveway or something more sort of permeable and more flexible. If you really love the trees, you could do that, and it depends if it was a Lilydale toppings or a Tuscan toppings or something like that. The roots can't really wreck it. So you might. So really, it's get rid of the tree or change the driveway.
It's the tree or the driveway.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, beautiful. Now, all right. We do have a couple more questions, but we're well over time. What do you reckon?
I'm fine.
All right, beautiful. Hazza has asked a follow-up question. What would you replace them with if they do remove them?
Joe, there's some great dwarf gums around. Like we've got one here called the Baby, and it only grows 4 metres. And basically, the rule of thumb is that small trees have small roots and big trees have big roots. So if I like gum trees and your place sort of fits well with gum trees, I would go for some nice small gum trees. Or if you want to move away from the gum tree, a Japanese maple has the least offensive root system, in my opinion, of almost any other tree.
Oh, and I mean, almost nobody dislikes a Japanese maple.
Yeah,
I think that's true.
Yeah, so I think if your property was a sort of a gum tree kind of a place, I'd go for a dwarf lemon scented, like a sensuous or the baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Believe in Me gets the final question, and that is, I was looking to plant some heritage raspberries. Is it okay to plant them at this time of year?
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. So, thank you all so very much for joining us today, for asking your questions. Thanks for letting us know where you are, because that really helps to guide us. And if you like what we're doing here, tune in again on Friday. We've got our Growers Direct flash sale, where we have over 100 hot items that Chris has pulled together, and they're at really good prices. So limited stock, but we've had some unbelievable specimens in here in the time that we've been doing these live streams.
Yeah, there's every week actually, and growers are ringing me this morning, and it looks like we're going to have Little Gem Magnolias for 1990. Now it's a few years since we had them for 1990, so nice little gems for 1990.
Lovely.
And there'll be lots more, of course, but they're ringing up and they're giving me deals, and tomorrow morning I'm out on the road chasing up. I think I'm going to be up about 5 o'clock in the morning, and hopefully in amongst some good stock by about 6.
And I think, it's really important to note that, I know if Chris said this, people won't believe him. They'll think that he's just, tooting his own horn. But I can honestly say he gets these great deals and he passes them straight back onto the customers. It's very generous. But I think you really enjoy doing that flash sale, and we love having people. So if you're free, 12 o'clock till 2 o'clock on Friday, we run you through each of those items, how to look after them, what the situation is good for, and we run through them all.
Yeah.
So we look forward to seeing you there.
Join me, 100 items, and you can come in and get them on the weekend. You can go online. And the actual fact is, last week's flash sale's up live at the moment, and then there's the flash sale page. You can go to the page, and the 100 items that we did last Friday are actually available to you now. And what we're really working on at the moment is that lots of people are doing garden projects for the summer, it's going to be that holiday where people tend to stay home and do, a lot of people are going to stay home and do a garden project. That's what we're finding. And what we've done is we put, of our 100 specials, we've kind of put trees, shrubs, hedges, flowers, cottage, natives. We put a mixture of everything so that people can actually use that to put a whole project together on the cheap, and that would be the grow. How would you find our current Grower Direct flash sale?
Just go to our the first page of our website, and the ticker at the top. You just click on that, and it takes you straight there.
Yeah, and on that there's a photo of me and our gorilla, both in Hawaiian shirts.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
And
we're signing off. But Hallie has asked, Chris, will the new weeping cherries arrive this week?
They've arrived. I was out the back, and the whole truckload of them have been offloaded out the back.
Yep. And
they're beautiful. And what's interesting is he's grafted them all different heights. So if you're after a shorty or a medium one or a tallish one, we got them.
So get down here in the next 24 hours and you'll get yourself a free cherry tomato.
Yes, that's
all
right. Yeah, free.
Thanks very much, everyone, and see you on Friday.
Thank you. Bye. How'd we go?